Eddie versus the Algorithm is back for Game Week 13, and it feels like I've only just recorded the Game Week 12 episode, but we're here. We've got games at the weekend as well, don't forget. And this is the series where we're going to be putting the Algorithm computer-generated team that's predicted to score the highest amount of points for Game Week 13 at the weekend up against a team I've put together myself to go up against it as a free hit team, and we see who can score the most points, as we've been doing each game week of the season if you're following along. In Game Week 12, it's not quite over yet. Unless Leon Bailey comes through with an absolute masterclass, it looks like the computer's actually going to take another W. Wilfred Zaha and Darwin Núñez being the picks that do make the difference for the Algorithm this week. Without any further ado, hey, let's get into having a look at Game Week 13 and how the Algorithm team is shaping up. And in goal for the Algorithm this week is going to be Jordan Pickford, who looks like a little bit of an interesting option to go for. When I was looking at goalkeepers for selection here, I wasn't considering Pickford at all, really, given that Crystal Palace seem to be in pretty decent goal-scoring form, and that Everton have been conceding quite a lot of goals recently. Only one on Wednesday night to that Almiron goal to win Newcastle the victory. But Pickford, you could go for him. I mean, we're not really looking at making goalkeeper transfers at the moment. If you're considering bringing a keeper in, I probably wouldn't go for Pickford up until game week 16. I don't think Everton have the best fixtures or the best defensive form. But for this week in isolation, doesn't look too bad a selection to go with the Everton man. Interesting to see him top of the predicted points for goalkeepers, very high up on those rankings, with Alisson actually coming in behind Jordan Pickford. And then when we look towards the defenders, we can see that Trent Alexander-Arnold makes his appearance back in the Algorithm 11, with Cancelo and Akanji of Manchester City either side, who now once again have a fixture in FPL, which does seem to make the game easier when the best two teams in the league are actually playing in our sides. Trent Alexander-Arnold coming back into that Liverpool team in midweek. He came back onto right back. Tsimikas started left back with Robertson, who was actually benched. A few people were predicting it the other way with Trent not playing and Robertson starting, but Trent came back into the team, returning from injury a bit quicker than everyone expected. And so he looks a very nice option for the weekend, given that most managers will have shipped him out by now with that injury, or a lot of managers certainly will have. He still doesn't look amazing going forward. He's not quite the Trent we've seen before. But if Liverpool start keeping clean sheets, as they did in midweek, then he's still going to carry you over those points from those clean sheets. And against Nottingham Forest, looks a very nice fixture to do so as well. And with Trent, there's always the possibility of an attacking return. That's just the way he plays in that Liverpool side. Cancelo, we also know why he's a great pick to go for, up against Brighton too, who failed to score against that Nottingham Forest side in midweek and didn't look amazingly convincing going forward. They did have their chances, however, but Man City are a much more formidable defence than Nottingham Forest, and going with the double Man City clean sheet doesn't look like a bad option to back at all. In midfield then, we're seeing a very nice midfield four, in my opinion. Jarrod Bowen's a really, really nice option to go for this week. And a lot of people have him in their teams. Got pretty unlucky in game week 12 with that penalty save from Alisson. And Jarrod Bowen, rolling into this Bournemouth game, will be looking to bounce back from that. West Ham, over the last two game weeks, have actually had the highest XG of any team in the Premier League. That penalty will be playing in towards that XG total. But Jarrod Bowen, that's why you've got him in your side, and that's why having penalty takers on the whole is a good thing when they actually decide to put them into the back of the net. We've also got Mason Mount, who you can see there going up against Manchester United, which is a bit of a bolder call, even though the Red Devils seem to be coming into some kind of decent form under Erik ten Hag, but they do seem to be a bit up and down at the moment. You never know whether the Reds are going to turn up on their day, but going to Stamford Bridge, I would back Chelsea to do okay in that game. And Mason Mount's the one you can actually back to be on the pitch, with Raheem Sterling being benched for the last two Chelsea games. So if you're looking for a Chelsea midfield asset, then Mason Mount looks really the only certain way to go to guarantee minutes. We've also got then Saka and Martinelli, so the two Arsenal boys coming back in for that away fixture at Southampton for the Gunners. And we know why they've been looking really impressive. The data looks great. They've been doing really well. Arsenal have been doing really well. Saka, Martinelli and Jesus are the ones to go for from that team. We already know this. And I'm thinking that Jesus is in fact going to be in the front line as well. So the Arsenal triple up is all in attack for the Algorithm, going all out on Arsenal for that game against Southampton. And I think bringing Saka in does look like a really nice pick this week. I'd probably go for him if you're looking to bring an option in. Many people will have held Martinelli through the blank as well, so definitely, of course, hold on to him if you've got him in your sides. And Gabriel Jesus could be another one. If you need a striker option and you're not looking for a midfielder, then bringing him into your teams doesn't look bad at all, because many managers will be seeing players without fixtures if they're keeping up to date with the game, maybe transferring them out if they're playing a bit casually. So these players are going to be a bit lower ownership than they were heading into the blank game week and could even act as differentials. And then we've got Erling Haaland, who probably will be held by the majority of managers through this, and many people will be looking to own Erling Haaland and captain him as the algorithm has done for that game against Brighton, with no Salah in this side for the algorithm, which is interesting. So if Salah was in this team, you'll see in a moment with my side, but Erling Haaland takes the armband for the algorithm. It's hard to deny that's the best option with the underlying data that Haaland's got this season. And then finally Darwin Núñez, who I think is a really nice pick as well. It looks like he should be starting. Klopp's shown that Firmino and Darwin will be starting in the same side, and that's all the options he's got really, with Jota and Luis Diaz look like they're ruled out until the World Cup. On the bench this week, they've got Gomez of Liverpool. We've also got Rice and Gay making up the rest of the bench. But let's move into having a look at some of the changes I've made to this team and the side I would be going with for this week on a free hit. And I've gone with a few picks that I perhaps wouldn't have gone with if the algorithm team was a little bit different. I do like to make these series a bit more fun and not just go with the exact same team that the algorithm's gone for, or that would be a rather boring facing off series or versus series, whatever you want to call it. I've gone with Ramsdale instead of going with the triple Arsenal attack, just to find my way into that potential and hopeful Arsenal clean sheet that I think they could get. I've also gone for Castagna, who I think's been a really, really good option recently, and perhaps is the best 4.5 million midfielder, or defender I should say, or under in FPL at the moment. If you watch Leicester from the eye test, he looks absolutely so advanced. He looks brilliant going forward. The balls just haven't been coming to him quite in the right areas, but I'm sure in time and maybe in more recent fixtures that will hopefully have happened, and that game against Wolves looks a nice opportunity, not only maybe for an attacking return, but also for a clean sheet as well for Leicester. I've also gone with Cancelo and Trent, who were in the algorithm side, and then I've got Joe Gomez, who you saw on the algorithm bench, to try and double up on what I think will be a Liverpool clean sheet in that game against Nottingham Forest. In midfield is where I've gone for a few different options. Instead of going for Jarrod Bowen, who, as I mentioned, I do really think is a very strong pick this week and looks like a great option to go for, I've actually gone for Phil Foden and Bukayo Saka, who I think are the two best midfielders to bring in around that similar price bracket to Jarrod Bowen this week. And I think the fixtures perhaps might not be as good as the West Ham game against Bournemouth, but Saka and Foden would be the two I'm definitely looking at, and probably in my own personal team, if you're interested, I'm going to transfer in one of them this week for Trossard, who I'll be taking out. In the midfield as well, we've also got Sinisterra, who you can see going up against Fulham, who have the worst defensive record in the league this season. Sinisterra also impressed me on the eye test. I think he looks great, and I think he's really due something quite big in FPL and FPL points. So hopefully this can be the game where he grabs something of significance in that match against Fulham. We've then gone with Mohamed Salah, who you can see didn't fail to return in midweek, disappointing a lot of managers who did captain him, but I've not stuck the captain's armband on him. I have stayed loyal to Erling Haaland. I think we maybe forget a little bit too quickly what kind of monster Erling Haaland is. So there's no doubt in my mind who I'll be captaining this week. It's going to be the Norwegian up front. It's also been difficult to lose Darwin Núñez or a second Liverpool attacking asset instead of going with Gomez. Did put his team together a little bit before the Liverpool lineup came out. Maybe I think differently, but if you are looking for a forward option, I definitely wouldn't be set on going someone like Jesus. I think that going with Darwin Núñez or maybe even going with Firmino looks a pretty decent way to go. So yeah, that's going to wrap up Eddie versus the algorithm for game week 13. Let me know who you think is going to win, the algorithm or myself, down below in the comments. It's been pretty good for the algorithm recently, so I've got some work and catch up to do. Let's see if I can get on a start to that in game week 13. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, and best of luck for this upcoming game week. I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.